Welcome back to our news bulletin. We start from the US, where the state of California has issued a stay-at-home order to contain the spread of new coronavirus. Italy has reported 427 new deaths, and Iran reported 149 over the last 24 hours. This report will now tell you more.
The global death toll by the new coronavirus has risen to over 10,000 as it hits Europe and America with full force. Haiti and Portugal are the latest to declare a state of emergency over the outbreak, closing borders and imposing curfew. The US has reported more than 14,000 infections and over 200 deaths, mostly in Washington state, New York, and California. California Governor Gavin Newsom says his decision of partial curfew will be looked back in history as pivotal.
This is a moment we need to make tough decisions. This is a moment where we need some straight talk, and we need to tell people the truth. We need to bend the curve in the state of California. And in order to do that, we need to recognize the reality.
As the rest of the world scrambles to contain the pandemic, over in China, no new cases have been registered for a second straight day. But the disease first identified in China's Wuhan has rapidly spread to more than 160 countries. In Chile, 15 political parties have agreed to postpone an upcoming plebiscite on whether to draft a new constitution.
Because as we have pointed out, as the president, as the government have said, and as all Chileans feel, today the main priority, the main concern, and all efforts have to be dedicated to being able to take care of people's health.
After France deployed 100,000 police, Malaysia and Germany have also called on their army to help enforce the shutdowns.
Meanwhile, the UK has taken emergency measures to contain the COVID-19 fallout as the country's death toll jumped by 40% in a day to 144. The Ministry of Defence has placed 20,000 military personnel on standby, ready to be deployed in streets, hospitals and other key sites. London's Transport Authority said it will close up to 40 underground train stations until further notice. London announced it was relaxing competition laws to allow cooperation between supermarkets and ensure supplies to the public were adequate amid panic buying. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said London has to impose stricter measures in order to force compliance with government's advice.
I'm conscious as the days have gone by that people will want to know how long we are expecting them to keep it up. And I wanted to try to say something today about how I see the timescale of this campaign and where we're going and what we need to do. And I do think, looking at it all, that we can turn the tide.
The COVID-19 spread has hit Britain's pillar industries such as tourism, leisure and entertainment, retail, which is expected to slow down economy. Now, in a related development, the US says it is giving Pakistan $1 million to fight the new coronavirus pandemic. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs Alice Wells says the US and Pakistan are long-standing partners. She said the funding under USAID program will bolster monitoring and rapid response against coronavirus. Wells said this aid is an initial amount. She said over 100 US-trained Pakistani medics are investigating COVID-19 cases in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region and Punjab province. Moving on, 30 soldiers have been killed and 5 others wounded in a suspected militant attack in the north of Mali. It is the deadliest attack on the Malian army in 4 months. The army says the attack took place at a military camp in Tarkand, north of Gao. Other than today's attack, in 2 months, militants have killed 9 soldiers and injured 15 in multiple assaults. In November, 50 Malian soldiers were killed in a similar attack on a military post in the northeast. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita says his government is seeking talks with extremist groups to end the insurgency engulfing the country since 2012. The UN's Libya mission has condemned a suspected attack by LNA forces that killed 9 people in the country's west. The shelling follows international pleas for a humanitarian truce to help fight against the coronavirus. In a statement, the mission said 4 girls between the ages of 14 to 20 were among those killed in the attack in Anzara. The mission said they were killed during indiscriminate shelling on a civilian neighborhood. Fighting between the Government of National Accord Forces and Haftar militia has resumed since Tuesday. Libya has not yet confirmed any cases of the coronavirus yet. But the country's Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization have warned that it lacks testing capacity and is not prepared for an outbreak. Turkey says 2 of its soldiers have been killed in Syria's rebel-held Idlib province. These are Turkey's first casualties since a ceasefire between Ankara and Moscow was agreed on 6th March. In a tweet, Turkey's ruling party deputy chairman said a soldier was killed in an attack in the town of Manbal in Idlib, but he did not say who was responsible for the attack. The governor's office of the Sivas province tweeted that a 25-year-old soldier was also killed in Idlib. The governorate gave no details on how the soldier was killed or exactly where. The ceasefire in Idlib has largely held. More from the Middle East. Yemen's Houthi rebels claim they have intercepted several warplanes belonging to the government coalition in Marib Governorate. Houthi spokesperson Yahya Sareh says the air defense systems confronted a combat formation over Surwa district. Sareh said warplanes were forced to leave before carrying out any hostilities. He said the domestically built Fighter-1 surface-to-air missile defense system was used in the operation. Yemen has been entangled in violence since 2014 after Houthi rebels overran much of the country, including the capital Sana'a. The UN says tens of thousands of Yemenis have been killed since then, while another 14 million are at risk of starvation. In Israel, hundreds of people have protested outside the parliament against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for exploiting the coronavirus crisis. The demonstrators accuse Netanyahu of taking advantage of the pandemic to solidify his power. In recent days, Netanyahu and his surrogates have shut down Israel's court system in advance of his trial on corruption charges. They are using phone surveillance technology on the public and have adjourned parliament until next week. The demonstrators defied restrictions on large gatherings to record their protest. They said Netanyahu has undermined Israel's democratic foundations. The protesters chanted "No to dictatorship, democracy in danger" and called Netanyahu the crime minister. Police say they have arrested 3 people for violating a ban on gatherings of more than 10 people. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Iran has released an American citizen on medical furlough. Michael White has been detained since 2018 and is currently under the custody of Swiss government. In a tweet, Pompeo said that the U.S. Navy veteran was released on humanitarian grounds and will undergo medical testing. Earlier, the state secretary hinted that Tehran was considering freeing some U.S. citizens due to coronavirus. Iran has reported over 16,000 coronavirus cases and more than 1,000 deaths. Pakistan has reopened its border with Afghanistan after shutting it down to guard the country against the new coronavirus. Prime Minister Imran Khan says Pakistan remains committed to supporting Afghan brothers and sisters despite the pandemic. Khan said he has instructed to open the Chaman-Spindu-Boldak border to let goods-laden trucks cross into Afghanistan. He said Islamabad remains steadfast with Afghanistan in a time of crisis. Kabul has asked the Taliban to commit to a ceasefire to help tackle the novel coronavirus pandemic in Afghanistan. Defense Minister Asadullah Khalid says it will be in the best interest of the country to let the government focus on public health. Khalid warned that security forces will respond to continued insurgent attacks. He said a ceasefire will help prevent the spread of disease and treat people in the country. Health officials have confirmed 22 infection cases, but only about 300 people have been tested in the country of some 35 million people. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg calls on Afghan leaders to resolve their differences and work for peace in the country. He was referring to the political impasse created after Abdullah refused to accept Ashraf Ghani as the country's president. In a press conference, Stoltenberg said NATO will reduce its presence in the country in line with the U.S. He said the bloc's train and advise mission will draw down to around 12,000 personnel from 16,000 over the next 135 days. But he said this will depend on the Taliban continuing to reduce violence. In another development, Saudi Arabia has halted entry and prayers in the outer country yards of the two holy mosques in Mecca and Medina. In a statement, officials said the move is a part of precautionary and preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. The kingdom has suspended all buses, taxis, trains, and domestic flights for 14 days, except those operating for humanitarian assistance. Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz warned that the crisis will worsen in the coming days.
We are going through a difficult stage, like same as the whole world, and I also tell you that the next stage will be more difficult at the global level to face the rapid spread of this pandemic.
The Saudi Health Ministry has confirmed 274 infection cases and no deaths. Moreover, the World Health Organization says Africa must wake up to the coronavirus threat and prepare for the worst. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the continent should learn from how the spread of the virus has sped up elsewhere. He warned that while Africa's confirmed cases were currently low, around 640, there was no reason for complacency. Health experts warn that strained public health systems in Africa could become quickly overwhelmed if the virus takes hold, especially in overcrowded urban areas. In Africa, 16 people have died from the virus, 6 in Egypt and Algeria, 2 in Morocco, and 1 each in Sudan and Burkina Faso. In South Africa, which has 116 cases, President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a state of emergency. From the EU's Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier to Hollywood star Tom Hanks, the new coronavirus has hit the celebrities and leaders as it continues its march across the globe. Here's a roundup.
Barnier, who leads negotiations with Britain on Brexit, in a video message said that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been in isolation since 13th March after his wife Sophie Gregoire Trudeau tested positive. Members of governments in several countries including Britain, France, Iran, Morocco, Norway, Poland and Spain have been infected. The Principality of Monaco said Prince Albert II has tested positive. Oscar winner Tom Hanks and his wife, actress and singer Rita Wilson, were tested positive for the virus on 12th March. Earlier this week, British actress Idris Elba said he has tested positive for the virus and has gone into self-isolation. France's 2018 World Cup winner Blaise Matuidi has been in self-isolation at his home since 11th March after testing positive. In Britain, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta and Chelsea winger Callum Hudson-Odoi have both been tested positive for the coronavirus. 7 basketball players in the NBA have tested positive, most recently 4 from the Brooklyn Nets, including superstar Kevin Durant.
Sri Lanka has postponed paramilitary elections in the country due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Election Commission Chairman says now the coronavirus will decide when the country can hold the elections again. Chairman Mahinda Deshpariya said the country should focus on eradicating the spread of the virus at this point. His statement comes 2 days after health authorities said that there is no serious situation in the country to postpone elections. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also told the SAARC leaders that the elections will be held as planned. Earlier this week, Sri Lanka banned all incoming flights for 2 weeks and imposed a curfew in some areas. There have been 60 confirmed cases of virus in Sri Lanka so far. We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. In India, 4 convicts of the 2012 gang rape and murder of a New Delhi student have been hanged today morning. The gruesome rape and murder of 23-year-old Jyoti Singh by 6 men in a moving bus in Delhi sparked nationwide demonstrations in India. Welcoming the decision, Singh's mother said her daughter's soul will finally rest in peace. In 2013, the main accused Ram Singh was found dead in his prison cell, with officials declaring it a suicide. A juvenile convict of the crime was sentenced to 3 years in a correctional facility. The incident brought the high rates of violence against women in the country into the limelight once again. Under pressure, the government introduced harsher penalties for rapists and death penalty for repeat offenders. Russia has accused the EU of immoral behavior after the bloc accused Moscow of spreading false information about the coronavirus pandemic. On Wednesday, the EU said Russia was putting lives at risk by its misinformation campaign. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said this is an attempt to mask one's problems in the fight against COVID-19 with the help of unfounded allegations. Maria Zakharova said this is not the first time that the EU has tried to blame Moscow for certain problems they face. She said accusations must not be leveled if there is no proof. Earlier, an internal EU document warned that pro-Kremlin media outlets were promoting disinformation about COVID-19. The Cannes Film Festival scheduled for May has been postponed until late June. The Cannes board said they were rescheduling the 12-day festival in light of the severity of the coronavirus pandemic. Last week, director of the festival, Thierry Famont, said that an event planned for May should not be seen through the lens of March. Doubts still remain about whether Cannes will be able to go ahead with film shoots halted or called off across the world. Several other smaller film festivals, including Tribeca, SXSW and Edinburgh, have already been cancelled or put back. The Bank of England has slashed interest rate to a historic low of near zero in its 325-year history. This is an attempt to support UK economy amid the coronavirus pandemic. It is the second cut in interest rate in just over a week, bringing them down to 0.1%. The bank said it will also increase its holding and buy back corporate bonds worth $200 billion in an effort to ease liquidity. Meanwhile, the profits of Germany's biggest airline, Lufthansa, dropped by 44% to nearly $1.5 billion as airline struggles with COVID-19 fallout. The chairman of the Lufthansa's executive board said the virus has placed global economy and the company in an unprecedented emergency. Lufthansa stocks have lost over 46% during the last 4 weeks. Stock markets in Asia are trading mixed as global stimulus measures pick up investor sentiments. Investors are pushing fresh rally in the stocks as they struggle to recover from historic depths amid liquidity crunch. Seoul's Kospi is trading about 6% higher amid fresh stimulus measures by the country's central bank and the government. Hong Kong's Hang Seng has surged over 3%, while Shanghai Composite is trading about 1% higher. Nikkei 225 is trading over 1% lower. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has surged over 2%. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.